What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another episode of Just Jets, episode number 253. I am here today to talk about Olu Fashanu's injury. We will talk about how the Jets ended up receiving pretty good news there. And in the voicemails, a lot of talk on the Jets' uncertain future. So I'm coming to you a day early. Christmas is tomorrow on Wednesday when we usually drop episodes. I am not planning to make any content tomorrow, so figured I would just do the episode a day early, and that will be my Christmas Eve content. I want to thank each and every one of you for supporting me through the year in 2024. It means the absolute world to me that I get to wake up and do what I love every single day and make content talking about my favorite football team for a living. It is truly, truly a dream come true. So from me to you, I hope you have a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever holiday you celebrate. I hope it's filled with love and joy, and you get to have a nice day with friends and family. That's my hope for you, and I appreciate you guys, really. So let's get into the episode today. Wanted to talk about Olu Fashanu at the top. That to me was the most disappointing part of this past game, the loss to the Los Angeles Rams. I was expecting the Jets to lose to the Rams, and sure, they blew another fourth quarter lead. The sixth time this season they've lost a game where they've led in the fourth quarter. But when you're now 4-11 with 2 games left to go, I think the bigger deal is unfortunately losing your young left tackle who's a rookie and came in and played really, really well. He unfortunately had to get carted off the field, but we did get some good news on that front, so I wanted to start the show by talking about that. According to Jeremy Fowler, NFL Insider, Olu Fashanu is expected to miss the final 2 games of the year, which is a bummer, but the good news is it's not a major injury. It's a foot injury, not the Achilles tendon, which is huge. Achilles, that just gives me the creeps after the last couple of years. They lost Jermaine Johnson to an Achilles injury this year. They lost Aaron Rodgers last year to the Achilles injury. It's a really, really tough thing for guys to come back from. And especially thinking of a left tackle, the power that they need to use from their lower half in the Achilles injury would have been a scary thing. And I'm pleased that the Jets were able to avoid that kind of a thing. And Olu more specifically, pleased for Olu that wasn't the case. You know, a foot injury obviously is not, I don't want to ever see anyone get injured. So I feel it's almost weird in a way to be like, okay, the Jets got good news. It's guy's still injured, but it's not as bad as we thought. So it's a little strange. I understand, and I hope you guys understand as well where I'm coming from on this, but all things considered, with what it could have been and what it looked like with him having to get carted off the field, limping off, and then getting on the cart on the sideline and going off to the locker room. Again, an unfortunate end to what I thought was a really promising rookie season for Olu this year. I was thrilled with what they got from him, specifically at left tackle. On the season, he bounced around, played right tackle, played right guard. For the first time in his career, he has never at any level played either right tackle or right guard. So kind of put in a tough spot. But once he moves back to left tackle, I thought he was stellar in the 6 games that he ended up playing a majority of the snaps at left tackle. He allowed just 1 sack and 14 pressures in those 6 games. I think the good news, what you can say, is that the Jets have found their left tackle of the future. I think, he just turned 22 years old. And when you look at the season he had, excellent in pass protection, which coming out of college out of Penn State, I think, looking at this last draft class, there was a lot of offensive linemen that you could love, and Joe Alt and JC Latham goes before Olu in the draft. But looking at just pass protecting, I thought Olu was the best pass protector in this class, and he needed to work on his run blocking. That was the area of weakness for him. And I thought he did a really good job as a run blocker this year. He was ahead of where I expected him to be, being just 21 years old starting the year, now just turned 22. And, I think looking at how the offensive line played in this game, I really want to run this unit back from left tackle to right tackle with Olu, left guard John Simpson, center Joe Tippmann, right guard Elijah Vera Tucker, and I would re-sign Morgan Moses. I know Moses, at times has gotten banged up this year, played through a lot of injury, but I think he is a solid right tackle. I think he's a leader on this team. I think he's a good character guy, good locker room guy. And you need players like that on your roster, even if you're going through a little bit of a retool. I'm not going to call what the Jets are going to do going forward a rebuild, but I think at the very least you can say that they're going to make some major changes. But going through and like picking from this roster, who are guys that you'd want to be there for the change, Morgan Moses is a guy like that. Now, I'm not saying sign him to a long-term deal at his age, but can you give him a one-year deal to come back and be the starter for next year? And maybe you take someone in the middle rounds who can sit and learn behind him, like what Olu did for the first half of this year behind Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses. I think that would be my plan. Clearly, the Jets need some more depth on the offensive line because the backup tackles have been absolutely abysmal. Carter Warren has not been very good this year. Max Mitchell has also not been very good. A couple Joe Douglas mid-round swings on the offensive line that you're not really getting anything out of. I think for me, my plan of attack would be to keep the unit together. They've played together now for a good sample of this year, and I think all the turnover on the offensive line, it just isn't a good thing. So you have four guys, young players or guys in their prime, all 27 years or younger from left to right, except for the right tackle spot. That's where I'm saying, bring back the veteran for another year and Morgan Moses. But you got 80% of that offensive line figured out. And they're young, and there's a chance they could play a few years together. That excites me. So whether it's Aaron Rodgers, Tyrod Taylor, a rookie quarterback, some other bridge quarterback, I think you'd be setting up the new coaching staff, new regime, and new offense for success by running back this group. So just wanted to talk quickly about my thoughts on Olu Fashanu's injury, and then, of course, get into why I believe the Jets would be making the right decision to retain their guys on the offensive line. Let's get into your voicemails. We have a few to get into this week. We're going to start with our guy, Bill Steen. What do you got, buddy?
Hello, Matthew O'Leary. This is Bill Steen. I was wondering how you are. It's been a long time since I called, and I feel like you're a nephew to me.
Thank you.
I would like to tell you that you are family. So, happy holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, the Diwali, whatever that Indian holiday is. Whichever holiday you celebrate, I hope you enjoy it. I don't know if there's one for Buddha. But Green Bean is the one that seems more of a Buddha guy.
He does.
I would like to ask you how you feel about the progress of Joe Tippmann. Please respond. I love you.
Thank you. I haven't heard from Billy in a little while, so wanted to get him up and on the call. I appreciate the kind words. Joe Tippmann, I think, has been very, very good. I talked about the offensive line at the beginning of this episode, and looking at the season, 1 sack allowed in the last 11 games. Penalties have been up a little bit over the last handful of games, but I think Joe Tippmann's been really solid this year. I like that they moved him back to center, and they're just going to keep him there. Same thing with Elijah Vera Tucker. Find the position for these guys and let them stay there. And I think it's paid dividends. I think Joe Tippmann's been really good. And I'm hoping that, it could be going forward, the same version that the Jets had in the 2000s into the 2010s with DeBrickashaw Ferguson and Nick Mangold. Now, I don't know if Joe Tippmann's going to be as good as what Nick Mangold was. Mangold was, for a lot of his career, probably the best center in the NFL. I don't know if Joe Tippmann will ever get to that point. I clearly hope that he does, but I think he is a plus starter. And I think every single spot on the Jets offensive line, they are deploying a plus starter, which has been rare for them for a long, long time. You have your left tackle in Olu, which they were trying to find. They did that. John Simpson's been fantastic for the New York Jets in free agency, an under-the-radar move, one that I thought he'd be an upgrade over Laken Tomlinson, but I think I underestimated just how good he could be. I think Elijah Vera Tucker's been fine this year. I don't think he's been nearly as maybe flashy as what he was early on in his career, in his first year and maybe second year before getting hurt, but I think he's been good. And you guys know how I feel about Morgan Moses too. So offensive line, I don't think has been an issue. I think they've actually been pretty good. I'm going to say it's an elite offensive line. It's the best line in football. No, but it is clearly going in the right direction, and they are, at this point, a good unit. Let's go to Jeff calling in from Jersey. He wants to talk about the future of this Jets team.
Hey, Matt, it's Jeff from Jersey, and this is my first time calling in this season.
Welcome.
Again, love what you do. I just want to talk about what the future of the quarterback position looks like. I have no idea what they're going to do, and all fans don't know what they're going to do. And I'm kind of curious to hear what your options are. I really do think that they have to get rid of Rodgers next year. You got to bring in some new blood, and there's too many financial reasons, to not keep him. And, you could go into next year with a new coach, with Tyrod Taylor and, Jordan Travis, along with a draft pick if you want to. I just don't think there are any quarterbacks really worth taking, especially in the first round in this year's draft. And honestly, if you keep Rodgers next year, we all know what's going to happen. They're going to win enough games to keep them out of the top 5, and we're going to be screwed with the quarterback position again in the future. So either draft one this year or go into next year with Tyrod and Travis, and that gives you the ability to have a top pick. I don't even know if next year's quarterback class is really going to be that great. I have a good feeling that Arch Manning is not going to be in next year's draft. We all know, especially if the Jets are in the top 5, he's not going to be in the draft. So they could draft a quarterback this year. I don't know if they really will. You could also trade for one. I don't know how realistic this could be or if we should even entertain this, but J.J. McCarthy could be an option. Kyler Murray could be an option. I'm not sure how much I want to do that, but I don't know. I'm just kind of curious to hear what you have to say about it. And, I think you got to hire someone like Vrabel or Brian Flores, someone who's done this before. The big question is, who's going to be your offensive coordinator, and can they develop a quarterback? So, Matt, I'm curious to hear what you have to say, and thanks for all that you do, and go Jets.
Thank you, man. It's going to be really interesting what they decide at the quarterback position. An option is bringing back Aaron Rodgers. I think if they were to do that, it would have to be on a restructured deal. He did take a pay cut the first time with the Jets, so I think he is definitely open to that idea. He mentioned it on the Pat McAfee show this week as well. That's really the only circumstance that I would be interested in bringing Rodgers back, and I'm not even sure if that's like my true preference of preference. I like Tyrod as a bridge guy with a young quarterback in here. I get your point on this draft not being a quarterback-friendly one, especially with guys like Drew Aller going back to school. Nussmeier from LSU decides to go back to school. You mentioned next year's class, Arch Manning maybe will come out, but there's some other names too, like Nussmeier and Aller and Jalen Daniels from Kansas and the Tennessee quarterback and South Carolina quarterback. Like there's going to be better options, I think, next year. I don't really have much interest in bringing in Justin Fields to be a bridge guy. I know that's kind of like the popular name right now. I don't think he's a very good passer of the football at the NFL level. He's very, very, very exciting with his legs, but I think there's a reason why the Steelers made the pivot to Russell Wilson and why the offense has looked significantly better since they've done that. I don't think there's any world where Sam Darnold comes back, so I think we can put that dream to bed for Jets fans. So I get it to those who say that, Rodgers is the best case scenario bridge quarterback. On a pay cut, maybe that's the case. There are some things that I worry about bringing Aaron Rodgers back. One, the injuries. He's played most of this year hurt and has been injured the last 3 years. Just the extra stuff that comes with Rodgers. Statistically, he's put up pretty decent numbers this year. And with an improved coaching staff and defense, the Jets' record should improve. But is it worth it with the extra elements like, his age, injury, what it means for the rest of the team? Will he give up, more control on the offense? How much influence does he have on decisions? Like, those are all things that I think need to factor in to this decision that the Jets are going to make. And I think it's a decision that the new GM and head coach have to get together and agree on. I don't think it should come from Woody or Brick or Christopher Johnson. That's pretty much my take on it. Jake from Jersey is up next.
Hey, what's up, Matt? Jake from Jersey. Just a quick call after the game yesterday. It's just, I feel weird even saying this, but, I knew Garrett was going to get upset because he wasn't getting involved much, and it's not like he's not getting open. He's open. He's open all the time, usually. I know he was going to get mad because you could just see Rodgers forcing it to Davante Adams, which is, fine, but I don't know. It's not like 2017 anymore. It's good because he's been good. Don't get me wrong, but you could tell he was force feeding that 500th TD to Adams, and I don't know. It's just weird, man. You can't. Garrett is such a star player. He's usually never any trouble outside of football. I don't know, man. Those are the guys you want to build your offense around, and I get Davante Adams is a great receiver. I just think Garrett Wilson should have more targets than he did yesterday. I really don't know how I feel about next year, what totally this team is going to look like with Rodgers at QB, especially if Adams comes back, which again, it's a good thing to have too much talent at that position, but I don't know. There's something a little weird yesterday, you can tell. But let me hear your thoughts on that, Matt, and go Jets.
Yeah, I got that same feeling too after. So touchdown 499, great play from Rodgers, rolls out, finds Adams in the back of the end zone. Really, really good play. The most egregious example of Davante Adams getting forced the ball was the 4th and 4 end zone fade with Garrett Wilson in the slot running a slant right at the marker open, and the ball goes to Adams on a 50-50 ball on a end zone fade on 4th and 4. That was frustrating watching. It's on film. It's even worse to look at. I get it. I do. Rodgers, all-time great quarterback. All-time great quarterback. Davante Adams, all-time great receiver. Great player. And probably wants his guy to catch his 500th touchdown. It'd be an awesome story. But take the 4 yards. Don't go for the 50-50 ball on 4th and 4. Take the 4 yards. Get the first down. Keep it moving. That was a big part of the game. And going into the final drive, Garrett had 3 more targets on the final drive. So final targets ended up being 13-7, with Davante getting more. But it was 12-4 at one point on that final drive. So Davante Adams was tripling into the fourth quarter, late into the game, tripling Garrett Wilson's targets. And Garrett was making big catches in this game. 2 of his catches on the 3 targets were first down conversions on 3rd and long. He was good, and he was open, and that's not the first time that that's happened. And even before Davante Adams came in here, it was like Garrett and Rodgers weren't necessarily on the same page at times. And it's just a 3rd year in a row where Garrett Wilson has been open and they've left plays on the field. And I understand he has 90 catches on the year. He's probably going to come close to 100 catches this year. and 1,100 yards. And it'll be 3 straight years with over 1,000 yards. All really, really great things. But there's still more meat on the bone. And if Rodgers does come back, like, this is the stuff that I don't want to deal with. I don't want to see the ball and the offense just being the Rodgers and Devontae show. The point of bringing Devontae in was, yeah, he's a good player and you have chemistry with Rodgers. That's great. But it adds an extra weapon. Use him as a weapon, but it can't be the only one. Garrett Wilson's really good. Breece Hall is a good player. I know a lot of people are down on Breece Hall right now, but I'm not one of those people. I think he's a very good football player. And whenever they throw him the ball, especially, he's very, very effective out of the backfield catching passes and making plays yards after the catch. And they refuse to use him. Tyler Conklin, I thought, even had a good game. They gave him the ball a few times and it was good. It was working. And I got a few pushback comments when I pointed out the target, the disparity in the targets. I was like, oh, if they were winning, would you, or if it was reversed, would you be complaining about it? I'm like, well, this is the whole point. They're not winning because of that reason. We wouldn't be complaining about it because if they were winning the game, they'd probably be spreading the ball around, and it wouldn't be Rodgers trying to get the touchdown to Davante Adams. So it's a moot point. It was a frustrating game against the Rams. For sure, a frustrating game against the Rams. Let's go out to Peter from the beautiful Hudson Valley, who has some thoughts as well on Rodgers and Garrett Wilson.
Hey, man. Peter calling from up in the very bitterly cold Hudson Valley on this Monday evening after the Jets lost to the Rams yesterday. Not a great second half. That's realistically all I saw of the game. A lot of offensive line penalties. I think everybody got one at some point. Sucks that Olu is hurt. I hope that it's nothing serious. We'll find out more, obviously, probably by the time this Just Jets episode airs. But I think I was right in my take from last week's call that Rodgers was not going to be on the same page with some of his receivers, is what I saw in the second half anyway.
Yes.
And despite that he played in Green Bay for so many years, so don't understand how in the cold weather he didn't play as well as he did down in south in Miami and Florida. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about was just the take on Garrett being a little disgruntled, not getting enough touches until the end of the game. Hey, he's got to look at it the way all of us have to look at it at this point. Vrabel or Flores or whoever we bring in as coach, whatever GM comes in, we got a lot of talent on this team. All we have to do is get some good veterans in here, have a really good draft, and this team could be turned around in a year, maybe even 2 tops. I would like to see them, like I said, bridge with Tyrod Taylor and another veteran, but if really Rodgers wants to come back and Adams wants to come back and they take pay cuts and whatever, great. Whatever works at this point. In 2026, you could draft a young quarterback like Alar or something like that and develop that quarterback. It depends on how these people want this to happen, but there's enough talent here that should make this attractive despite the Woody Johnson interference, and I hope that's the way this goes, period, for the Jets, because we need this to be a winning team and a winning team quickly. I think we're all tired of the losing. You are, I am, so many people are. So hopefully that's what's going to happen really quickly, and I just want to say Merry Christmas to you and yours, and hopefully a good New Year's as well, and a good New Year's for all of us as Jets fans. Let's go.
Thank you, Peter. Appreciate you hanging out with us and calling in. Second half, Rodgers did look off, and I think after he got sacked, the one sack the Jets allowed, it looked like he got hurt on the play. Again, he goes into the medical tent, ends up coming back out. Tyrod warms up, it doesn't come in. Frustrating, man. And Garrett's got to see it too. On the film, the whole team has to see it. You're right with the call that Rodgers wasn't going to look the same at home in the cold weather. It started out good. He had a really, really strong first half. I know they only scored 9 points, which was, you probably would have liked to see them come away with more than just 9 points in the first half. But he's completing 75% of his passes, and there were 3 drops as well. So he was very, very efficient. Then he gets sacked, and then he looks completely off after that. It stinks. But with the pieces that the Jets have, there is talent here. You have a Garrett Wilson, you have a Breece Hall, you have some pieces on defense. They need to add more pieces, but you have a good offensive line. There's the infrastructure of the makings of a good team here, but they need help working the roster around the edges to make it truly great. And they also need the right people in charge to run the show. And I hope they get that right as well, Peter. Close out with PG from Long Island.
Hello, Matt O'Leary. PG from Long Island here. Thank you, as always, for taking my call. A couple things. One, I've mentioned how Jeff Ulbrich has been put into a very tough situation, which is true. But I'm thinking now that the Jets have done a great service to the rest of the NFL because they've shown that Jeff Ulbrich should never and will never be a head coach in the NFL.
No.
He has done a horrible job with the Jets. Bailed out in Jacksonville and, decisions yesterday just horrible. So, again, he's not up to the task, and I think the rest of the league knows it. So, thank you, Jets. Second thing is, Aaron Rodgers said earlier that he has, it's time to move on for him, and I think that's probably the case, but it's up to the new GM and the new coach. I do think there's a scenario where he might make sense, and that would be, listen, there doesn't seem to be another team out there, according to all, reports, that really is a good fit for him to come in as a starting quarterback. And if he wants to play another year, which I think he does, Jets might be his only option. So we could retain him as the bridge quarterback, and have him mentor whatever draft picks we have, or, possibly the kid from Florida. But we'd have to do that with a completely restructured salary. We're going to have to pay him nearly what he's getting paid. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, they would never agree to that, blah, blah, blah. Well,
he would.
Maybe he would. He's made over $400 million in his career just as a football player, plus all of the side money and endorsements and whatnot. According to one report, he's made $9 million in outside money just this year. So why not? You can never have too much money, but at some point you might have enough, right? So we could bring him in as, again, the bridge. Get your thoughts on that. Matt O'Leary, good content this year. Love your YouTube station. My first go-to every night when I listen to Jets content. And Matt O'Leary, listen, Merry Christmas to you and your family. Happy New Year. And as always, go Jets.
Appreciate you. Same to you and yours, PG. A couple thoughts. Ulbrich has done an absolutely horrible job. The decision at the end of the game against the Jaguars to punch it in and not just kneel down and kick the field goal was baffling. If it was a game that mattered, I would have been very much more upset about it. Now, luckily, Mac Jones throws the interception on the final drive, so it's not like the Jags go down and score points. So that's good. But then the sequence before the 2-minute warning of this game, another critical spot with a horrible result. Rodgers looking to the sideline like, are we taking the time out here? What are we doing? And they're like, no, we're going to get the play in. Rodgers like, all right, we'll go to the line of scrimmage. Max Mitchell jumps, false start, backs him up. Then they kick the field goal, and they miss the field goal. Can't make it up. You absolutely cannot make it up no matter how you slice it. It just a horrible job from this staff. Truly, I cannot wait for this team to be, and the front office really to be overhauled. I think Rodgers is likely to take a pay cut, by the way. If the Jets want to keep him, I think he would do it. And I think Devontae would do it so that, they could stay and play together. You mentioned there, where else would he go? Minnesota gets brought up a lot if, Darnold leaves and they're not satisfied with JJ McCarthy. But can I give you a really outside the box one? Not as, and I'm not saying it's crazy likely. I think if Rodgers is going to play next year, I think his best chance to play is probably the Jets. But what about the San Francisco 49ers? He grew up in California. It was a team that he thought was going to draft him, wanted to play for probably. And I think Brock Purdy has had a really rough season. I don't think they're going to give him the contract this offseason. Next year would be the final year of his rookie deal. It'd be his 4th year. I wonder if they look and go, man, like it's now or never for us. And I don't know if Brock Purdy's the guy. So would Rodgers, if released, would he take a very cheap deal like what Russell Wilson did in Pittsburgh? Would he take that cheap contract with a team like San Francisco? That's just again, I'm not saying it's crazy likely. I'm really not. I wouldn't put it very high. But just looking at other teams around the league, if I had to think of another scenario where maybe, just maybe, what about San Fran? I don't know. Just something to chew on this holiday season. Guys, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'm Matt O'Leary. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy holidays. I'll catch you next time.